A few years ago, I was renting a house in Northern California. The neighbourhood was just outside the suburbs. It seemed like the perfect balance of having space and having nice neighbours close enough not to feel too isolated. The area had no streetlights, so it was very dark at night, especially if there were clouds blocking the moonlight. It didn't bother me though. It made the little house feel even more quaint on dark nights. I got home from work one day, midwinter. It was cloudy night, so pulling up to my house, I saw only what the headlights in front porch illuminated. When I got out of my car, I caught a whiff of cigarette smoke. That was odd, as I had never smelled that before around the house. I didn't see anyone nearby, so I ignored it and went inside. I had just got off a shift with a few hours of overtime, so I felt pretty tired. Even though it wasn't even 7 yet, I decided to take a shower and call it a night. I woke up sometime later, sure that I heard a noise inside my house. I wasn't worried right away because my friend would sometimes stop by to use the shower after work on his way home to his night classes. I even gave him a spare key so he could stop by, even if I wasn't home. He would always text me to let me know beforehand though, and I hadn't heard my phone go off. I reached over to my bedside table and picked up my cell phone to see if a friend had sent me a text. The bright light would illuminate from the phone screen and the number pad had blinded me. These were the days before phones had a light sensor that would dim the screen in the dark. This particular phone was so bright I could use it as a flashlight. Through squinted eyes, I could make out that it was 9 something, but I couldn't tell if I had an unread text or not. I set my phone aside and called my friend's name. There were a couple of seconds of silence before I heard loud footfalls as someone started running through the bottom floor of my house. I leapt out of bed and ran to the closet. They were already upstairs by the time I had opened up the door and stepped inside. That house had 3 rooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms on either side of the hallway, the one I was in and a spare, and a bathroom at the end. The bathroom doors were both closed, but the bathroom door was cracked open. I heard whoever was in my house thunder down the hallway, past my door and into the bathroom. Thank God he did. That gave me enough time to open up the attic access in the ceiling of my closet and hoist myself up. I had just started to lift myself up when a person ran out the back of the bathroom. My feet were barely inside of the attic when my bedroom door burst open. I heard footsteps run into my room and stop. When they didn't see me in that room, they ran back to the hallway and into the other room, which just had boxes stacked in a corner. Some weights, a table where I painted miniature models, and I guessed that they decided that if someone were hiding, it would be in the bedroom because they charged back into my room and turned on the light. A moment later, the closet door was ripped open. I was crouched in my attic, just a foot or so away from the access, so I could try and stop them if they started to climb up. From my vantage point, all I could see was about their knee down. They were wearing dirty blue jeans with frayed cuffs and work-worn boots. After a few seconds of looking in the closet, they stepped away and I heard a loud crash come from my room, followed by a scream of frustration and anger. That scream was the most unnerving part of the incident for me. It reminded me far too much of my stepfather, who would scream in a similar way when he lost his temper. I had left my cell phone when I ran for the closet. I wasn't certain I could climb down without him hearing. After some time, the noises stopped. I started counting slowly, and when I reached 1,000, I decided that it was safe enough to climb down and call the police. The first thing I noticed when I exited the closet was the intruder had flipped my bed over. I assume in an attempt to find me. That was the loud noise I'd heard after he stepped away from the closet. I couldn't find my cell phone, so I went by the landline, by the bed, and called the police. I waited in my room until I heard them call out from downstairs. The first floor was a mess, but I had expected that. Chairs had been knocked over, the sofa had been flipped, all the books, pictures and knickknacks I had on my shelves were strewn across the floor. The cupboards in the kitchen had been opened and all the boxed and canned foods thrown to the ground. As far as I could tell though, the only thing missing was a single kitchen knife out of a wooden block in my kitchen. The police checked the house from top to bottom and they found that the side door had been forced open by something, maybe like a crowbar. They said they also found a few cigarette butts along my fence line with some foil and an empty pen tube, which the police said people often used to smoke meth. So they think that he'd been watching my house for a while. I realised that he must have been out there smoking a cigarette when I got home. They collected up the evidence, told me I should stay with family and friends that night and get the door fixed as soon as possible. I opted to just not sleep. I moved the shelf over the broken door and spent the next couple of hours cleaning things up. I would often go to the window with a flashlight and shine it along the fence, where the police found the cigarette butts and foil, but I didn't see anything. Next day, I called up to have the door fixed, motion lights installed at the back, I lived there for another 3 years without incident. It was dark at the time, and I lived in a rough part of a large city. I've had many sketchy situations that I've managed to get myself out of, so I guess at the time I felt sort of invincible, like nothing truly could ever happen to me that was scary. When I walk alone, I always stay very alert and aware of my surroundings, for my own safety just in case. About halfway home, and roughly 10 minutes to my apartment, I noticed a van started tailing me. I was used to this, since in my city it's very common for a young woman in a rough area to get prostituted for sex. It's embarrassing how desensitised I am to this. I did my usual and crossed the road so I would be walking beside the traffic, heading in the other direction. I wasn't scared, just annoyed. The van then turned down a side street and back onto the road and pulled up on me. At this point, I still wasn't scared. Again, this had happened so many times. It didn't matter what I was wearing either. I could be wearing something that showed off more skin, or a winter coat zipped from below my chin all the way down to my ankles. The area is just notorious for this type of activity. I decided to be firm and told the person sternly I'm not interested. I noticed that there were two men in the van. They looked almost identical, and they may have been twins or brothers. Both men had a very, very dark complexion, dark eyes and dark short hair. The van didn't move. I was super annoyed and crossed the road again to get away. At this point, I figured that would have been enough for them to stop following me. They didn't. They kept circling back every time I crossed the road. I've never had to put that much effort into getting a horny pervert to leave me alone, so this is when I started feeling unsafe. They zipped by me at the speed the traffic was flowing, and I yelled for them to fuck off. I thought it was finally work. It'd been 3 minutes and I still hadn't seen the van, so I thought I was in the clear. Just in case, I pulled out my phone and was getting ready to call my sister. Just then, the van pulled up to me very quickly, and before I could even get a blink, one of the men jumped out of the van, opened the back door and approached me very quickly in an aggressive manner, as if he was about to scoop me up and throw me in a vehicle. The traffic in that area is very inconsistent. It was dead, and imagine that's what they were waiting for. Just as a man was about to place hands on me, I tilted my phone and said, "You are being filmed by my live video chat." I gave my friend's license plate number and the police had been notified. I was scared, but I didn't let it show. I stayed as calm as I could, and the man paused like he was considering if I was bluffing or telling the truth, so I tilted the phone more as to give a fake audience a better look at him. He then jumped in the van and they sped off. I've never been the same since that night. I'm afraid of walking alone, even in daytime. Stay safe out there.